Welcome to the Virginia Carolina Deer Tracts podcast. I'm Mike Davis, and I am here to talk about everything hunting, hunting land, and the great outdoors in both Virginia and North Carolina. Thanks for tuning in. All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Virginia Carolina Deer Tracts podcast. And today, man, I'm super excited about today. We have got Dustin Plummer with us today. And if you didn't already know, you're getting ready to find out real quickly that Dustin recently gained the title of the Virginia state record for an 8-pointer at the Virginia Outdoor Sportsman Show. Is that right, Dustin?
Yes, sir. How's it going today?
Man, that's awesome. Appreciate you being on with me today and taking the time to just talk with us and let us learn a little bit about you. And we all certainly want to hear the story of that buck. And I can peek right over your shoulder there and see him.
Yeah,
So
there he is.
so if it looks like I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm not.
Yeah, he's on full display for you.
Man, that's awesome. What a deer. Congratulations. Did you have any idea when you took him to the outdoor show that it was going to end up as a state record?
No, I really didn't. Just because when I had first had him scored, everyone's going to score him a little differently, as you know. Some of the little time, kickers down at his bases, the longest one was a 16th of an inch short of 1 inch. So when I first had them looked at, they thought maybe that one time was like a little right at an inch. And I hadn't had them, Boone and Crockett scored. Obviously, the hunting show wasn't, here when I first got them scored. So I was kind of thinking he would be in like the 9 and 10 point class. And it took, I think, 4 judges. They all scored them, differently, to come up with the final score, which was through Virginia score system. I think it was 215 sixteenths, I believe. And yeah, he was an 8-pointer by 1/16 of an inch.
Wow.
So obviously, if that time was just a hair, longer, he would have been in a whole nother category there.
Yeah. Now, if I understand it correctly, I thought I read on a post somewhere that if he would have scored as a 9-pointer, he still would have been a state record. Did I read that right?
Um, I've seen a lot, online that was, from just the photos of them getting shared,
I
but
got you.
it could have still been a state record 9. I'm not sure of.
Yeah, I certainly can't source it. I read something somewhere and I could be totally getting it messed up, but I do know that Mike Jones and the gang there at the Virginia Peninsula Sportsman Association, they're the ones that do the Virginia scoring system at the outdoor show, and I know man, they got a heck of a crew back there working behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and man, they measure and remeasure. They've got like a very diligent process to make sure they're getting this thing nailed down. So when you said four judges measured it, that doesn't surprise me at all because I know they want to get it right.
Yeah, and actually, one of the judges that measured him, he held the state record 8 from like 2008.
Oh man, that's bittersweet.
Yeah, he was like, I know his name. I'm just drawing a blank right now, but I got to meet him that Sunday when they announced everything, and he was a super nice guy. And I mean, he was one of the first guys that came up and congratulated me.
Man,
So I thought
that's
that was pretty cool. And,
yeah.
going off of, obviously if he was one of the guys that scored it, they all made sure they got it right. And he said it was a weekend long process of running the tapes every which way to make sure, he was a clean, legit 8. And thankfully those 5 little kickers, they were all anywhere from ½ inch to just under an inch. Thankfully, they weren't, over an inch because, like I said, he would have probably been in the 9 and the 10 point division at the show.
Well, regardless, it's an amazing, absolutely stud of a deer. So I do want to just take a step back real quick. Um, you know, as I've said on this show pretty much every time, I love having Virginia guests and North Carolina guests because, I just really like to celebrate the the great hunting and outdoors that we have in our area.
Yep.
And so, Dustin, you are a fellow Virginian. Were you born and raised in Virginia?
Yeah, yeah. So I live up here in Goochland County, and yeah, I've been here. I'm 32 now. I've lived here my whole life. Um, Worked for my family's roofing company, and I got two little boys. They're 4 and almost 3. So
Oh man, you
I
got your
take
hands
them
full
out.
there.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're a handful. They're
Yeah.
fun though. I got to take out my oldest son. We went dove hunting over the weekend, and just seeing his excitement, him out there just having fun. That was pretty cool.
Man, that really is cool. And I also spend a lot of time talking about, bringing that next generation into the fold.
Yep.
Because it's going to be super important just to maintain and keep that tradition alive. So does me a lot of good to hear that you got two young boys, and sounds like they're gonna follow right in daddy's footsteps.
Yeah, yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the days where they can tag along with me. Like I said, they're still young. My older son, he just turned 4 back in April, so he hadn't really done any deer hunting with me yet. Um, he can't sit still very very
Yeah,
long, so I don't want to push him too early.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're
But
making a good call there. But with that being said, uh, you know, super proud of what you've accomplished there, and I'd love to hear the story on how this monster ate, how that hunt went down.
yeah, man. I First picture I had of him was 2022. And it was just I got one picture of him like first week in November crossing over like the gas line that I hunt. And even then, it was just a picture of him like crossing the trail, but I could see how long his tines were. And even then, he was a big deer just from that one picture I had of him. I knew like, I thought he was a shooter then. And I hunted like the rest of November into December. And then up here, in Virginia, our season ends like, first Saturday of January. So
Right.
never had any pictures of him, never saw him again. And then I went into the following season, 2023, and didn't have a single picture of him, all year long. And like 2 weeks after the season, I was pulling cameras out, and I checked one of my cameras, and I had that one was set on video mode, and I had a video of him coming down the trail, and he looks at the camera and walks out of the frame, and that was it. But I knew then I was like, that's got to be the same deer, from the year before. So I knew like that spring and summer, that big buck, was moving around, but I kind of had a feeling he wasn't really living on the block that I was hunting because just from having a lot of cameras up year round, you kind of know like what deer are staying close by and what deer are just passing through and may never see them again.
Yeah.
But all summer, last summer, going into 2024, I had like, one shooter over there, and I'm hunting like it's like 4 or 5 different landowners kind of scattered out in this one area. But there's also like a lot of landowners
Looks like we locked up for a second.
and, other
There
people
you are.
hunting. And I just knew, you know, that deer that I was hunting, I knew if I hunted enough and just kept checking the cameras, hopefully that one would slip up. And that buck ended up disappearing and didn't really have, like all of October, I didn't really have anything, like any shooters on camera. And then it was the 25th of October. It was a Friday morning. And I just knew, I woke up and I had some pictures on my Tacticam, and it was this one here, and he was chasing two does like 50 yards from one of my climbers that I've been hunting for the last couple of weeks. So I was fired up, when I saw that.
Yeah.
Um, and Yeah, I went to another property that I didn't have many deer on. I pulled like four cameras out the woods, and I stuck like two of them up on the way in that evening, and I ended up putting like two more up like the following day when I hunted. But
Now,
I saw that.
was that all as a strategy to try to kind of get more shots of this guy on film, kind of try to
Yeah,
locate him, keep tabs on him?
yeah, just because I've got probably 6 to 8 different properties I hunt. And usually, I mean, I've got like probably 25 cell cams. And usually I put like 3 or 4 cameras per property I'm hunting. And just because it's better than walking the woods every other day and looking, I'll do some scouting like on my way to my stand, looking for like scrapes and rubs and stuff like that. But I knew that if I had a picture of them with two does, I knew, more cameras I could get up, the better I could maybe, figure out what he's doing. So yeah, I got those cameras in, and I hunted that evening. I almost went in there that morning and hunted them, but I just didn't. I figured he would be close by, and I didn't want to spook him, getting to my stand. So I held off, and I saw him that evening. Um, First hunt going in, hunting them. It was probably like 4:45, 5 o'clock. Hadn't seen anything. I'd been in the tree since like 12:30 or 1. And I grunted a couple times and heard something coming to my left, and it ended up being like a little basket rat. And he comes tipping through. And then I start hearing something behind me. And I looked off my left shoulder and I could see a tree, just shaking. And so I knew it was a buck, and I kind of like stood up to get a better look. And he slipped out from around that tree and looked up, the trail that I had walked in on, and I knew right away it was him. So he actually crossed the trail that I walked to my stand on, and right when he crossed the trail, I could tell he stopped and kind of locked up, and he turned and went up in the hollies and just disappeared.
So, like
So
he caught your scent? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
Just because where I'm hunting, like at that property, I don't have big fields or food plots or big thickets where I think they're bedding. Um, from what I've learned, I do a lot of deer hunting. I've been doing it, still hunting with my dad since I was, 7 years old, and just learned over the years, like sometimes it's hard even to play the wind when you're hunting like just a big block of oats, because you never really know where they're going to be bedded at. And
Right.
I don't think they bed in one particular area every day. I mean, I think a buck could bed over here, and then the next day he could be 1,000 yards away bedded up,
Yeah, I agree. I
you
agree.
know? So, uh, the way that I had to get in, you do have to cross a hayfield. And, I kind of tipped down the edge of it, slipped in about 50 yards off that field. And I don't know where he came from. There is a hedgerow with a creek. And when I grunted, that's where he came from. But I don't know if he would have been laid up there. He would have had to see me, walking to my stand. But
Yeah.
the way I went in, I thought I was safe. I was like, he's probably coming. It's a big block of woods in front of me. I went in along the backyard of the people's house and along the little hayfield, and that's where he came from. And so yeah, I think he didn't spook, but he just knew, it was still, this was the 25th of October. So they're starting to chase, but they're not like what you want to say, like they're not dumb.
Right. Yeah.
It's not peak rut where they're just going to run up on top of you with the doe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he walked off, and I got like one picture of him that Sunday at like 10 o'clock at night. And then it was probably 4 or 5 days went by and I didn't have, any pictures of him. And then he showed up like probably like 600 to 700 yards from where my other two cameras were. And that was like 4 in the morning, just by himself, just walking down the trail.
Yeah.
So I was hunting them for, about a little over 2 weeks, just hunting where I was getting them on camera and just not seeing them.
Yeah.
Um,
He was getting the best
and
of you.
yeah, yeah. The one that really got me, I'll have to share the video with you, but it was, I think it was like a Thursday. Um, I killed him the following Tuesday on election day. It was a Thursday evening, and I was started hunting. Like I said, I had him like 600 or 700 yards in front of the property, so I hunted there for like 3 or 4 days, and I'd been hunting in the back where I first got him on camera. But I'm hunting up front. It had been like 2 full days. I'd seen like a couple deer, but nothing. Just it was kind of slow. And right by my climber I'd been sitting in, it's like I don't know 4:30 in the evening. My camera went off, and it was him just walking down the trail. Comes up to my camera. You can see him check a scrape, and he starts rubbing his glands up on the branches, and then he walks off. And like I said, that was a Thursday evening. I'm sitting in the stand like 400 or 500 yards from him, just like shaking my head.
Yeah, because it was near another stand, right?
It was right near the stand. Yeah, I'd
Oh,
been originally hunting for like the first week and a half.
oh man. That's
And
the
I
way
don't
it
know
goes,
if
man.
it's, again, the wind, I know that's a big factor, but I don't know if that whole time I was hunting him, he was just knew something wasn't right, or maybe he was on a neighboring property, or I don't know. But I went back the following day to the back of the property, and I hunted there like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Didn't see him, didn't have him on camera, and then that Monday night, um, I'd just gotten home. I live, 20 minutes from where I'm hunting, and the camera went off, and it was him, coming up this, where that stand and camera was. It's a house and it's another house, and it's a hillside, two hillsides that meet with the creek. And it's not but like a 80-yard wide stretch of woods. And it's kind of like just a natural travel court, like a funnel
Yeah.
where they're not going to walk through this person's house. They're not going to walk through this person's yard. They're going to walk that hillside, and that's where a lot of my cameras were, and where I'd had them on camera the most was, walking that little, that funnel there. But yeah, he showed up like it was like 6:15, just by himself walking down the trail. And I knew then, I was like, all right, he's moving closer to daylight hours, and he's, walking these ridges, these funnels. I just knew I had to, you know, put in a lot of time, and just, keep hunting them, and hopefully eventually he would slip up. Uh,
Well, it sounds like he did at some point.
yeah, yeah. It was the following day I woke up, and when I woke up, I had him on a different camera, like 400 yards from there with a doe. And he was chasing a doe around. And I decided just to stick with my gut, and hunt, the stand that I had him on that evening before, right after dark. Something told me just sit there, and it was about 8:15. I hadn't seen anything, and I stood up and turned off my right shoulder, and it was a doe standing there like 75 yards from me. And she kept looking back and looking back. And I was standing there for like a good, couple minutes. And then eventually I see something, like I see his rack, coming up over the hillside. And I knew right away it was him. Just I saw the G2s, coming over the hillside. And so I started, shaking, my heart's pounding, and I sit down in my stand, and I'm hunting out of like a tight, little climber. I've got a jacket on, and I'm trying to turn, off my right shoulder to get a shot on him, and I just couldn't get, he was like straight behind me.
Yeah.
I started like trying to adjust my climber a little bit
Oh
to
boy.
get like a steady, straight on shot, and that didn't work out. So yeah, I just sat back down and tried like calming myself down, and just decided to just I'd have to just take a left-handed shot at him. And yeah, that's what I did. I got the gun up, and I felt like I kind of rushed my shot because as soon as the crosshairs hit his shoulder, I just squeezed the trigger, and smoke, went everywhere. And when I stood up, the doe was just standing there, like, smoke cleared. I didn't hear anything run off. I didn't hear anything crash. And this doe is just standing there looking around, like nothing happened. So I thought then I missed.
Yeah.
And I reload real quick. She runs off, and I hear deer blowing. I just, assumed it was him. And so I get down to the base of my tree. I waited like 15 or 20 minutes and climbed down and like eased up to the trail that, kind of the area I thought he was at. And I didn't see a drop of blood anywhere. And I still, at this time, like I hear deer blowing, and you don't see blood, you don't hear crash. Like, right away you think you
Right.
missed.
You're thinking the worst at that point. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I called a buddy. He answered he was in the tree, and he knew about the deer. That's why I called him. He's like, "Did you get him? Did you get him?" I'm like, "Dude, I just missed. Like, I rushed my shot. I shot him left-handed." He's like, "Well, why do you think you missed?" And I'm telling him the story. I'm like, "Dude, I put it right on his shoulder. I pulled the trigger." And he's like, "Man," he's like, I think you got him. Like, if you put it on his shoulder, I think you got him." And I had looked like maybe 30 yards off the trail, and, I didn't see anything. So I went back up to where he was, and I walked a little further, and then I went down the hillside. I just started, scanning back and forth, and I didn't make it maybe, 80 yards. And I looked up on the hill, and all I could see is the rat, laying there, just laid
Wow.
up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was
Man.
just,
So first of all, the fact that you had the confidence to just say, ah, heck with it, I'm gonna shoot him left-handed.
yeah.
That's remarkable in and of itself. But how bad when you were going through that down period where you were like convinced that you missed, how bad were you kicking yourself for taking a left-handed shot? I mean, was that something you'd done before?
Honestly, I actually have shot a couple on the wall that I've had to shoot, left-handed,
Wow.
but not it hadn't been often. I sat there against a tree like, 3 years of like chasing, this deer to finally like this last year, those 2 or 3 weeks I had them on camera. That was like all I could think about.
Oh,
It's like that's why I like deer hunting. Like the way I deer hunt, um, I try to be, selective, and I just try and like pay attention year after year, like what deer I had the year before, and match them up to the following year, and say, all right, well, this was a, 2 or 2.5 year old last year. This is this buck, he's 19 or 20, but he's a young deer. I try and be like smart and selective with like the deer that I like target. And this one here, like I knew he was just like an old buck, and he was smart, and he had outsmarted me for 3 years. And I finally got, a shot on him, and I thought I blew it. So I was like, down at, rock bottom for that
Yeah.
20 minutes there.
Yeah. It's kind of the equivalent of like, wanting to throw your golf clubs in the pond, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. I thought about that. I was like, I don't deserve to hunt. I can't, like I was
Oh
just
man.
like, kicking myself. But thankfully, like I said, I made a great shot. I mean, I hit him right in the front shoulder.
Yeah, you can see that in the picture. You can see the it's
Yeah,
right there on the shoulder. You
right
hit
on the
exactly
shoulder.
where you put the crosshairs.
Yeah, I mean, right. And what's also crazy about this, um, like a week before the season, I'm shooting an old. It's a nice gun. I mean, it's a Thompson Center Omega, but I mean, I'm 32 now. My dad got me that gun when I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's still in great shape. But I know this probably isn't, it's probably not the right thing to do. But I never really like check my black powder like before the season. Like I bet it had been 10 years where like I knew it was sighted in. I was shooting deer with it, and then I go into the season just assuming it's on. And before I even had him on camera or anything, something told me like, "Oh, just check your gun." Like you hadn't checked it in a while. And me and a buddy, we were shooting them. My gun was like 6 inches low and like 4 or 5 inches like to the right.
That's significant.
And I had to completely resight it in. I mean, I shot probably 5 or 6 times to get it dialed in.
Right.
So like now every year I'm checking, before the season. I'm any gun I'm using, I'm checking it because you can't always assume it's still. I don't know what happened, if maybe I bumped the scope or what,
Yeah.
but I just thank God that I checked that gun because I would have definitely probably missed them, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing you did. Those scopes can be kind of funny. I've seen them take all kinds of abuse and never move. And then sometimes it's like you just brush against it and it throws the whole thing
Yeah.
off.
Yep.
It's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, I knew when I took the shot, I knew I had just got it like dialed in at 100 yards. And, this deer, most of my shooting isn't more than 100 yards where I'm hunting. Um, I'm hunting just blocks of woods with a lot of hillsides, and don't really have a lot of places that I hunt with like big open field where you can even shoot clearly over 100 yards. But it was a good little poke, end of October, leaves are still on the trees.
Oh
I mean, it
yeah.
was probably a 75-yard shot, pretty much free-handed. So
And
I think a
left-handed.
little bit of luck was involved there.
Yeah. Well, that was a gutsy move for sure, and it paid
Mhm.
off.
Yep. Yep.
Hey, I
But
want you to I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take your phone and
yeah.
kind of show the buck like you did when we first got on the call there. Just
Yeah.
because that was pretty wild, man. That's an incredible
Yeah.
buck.
Yeah. So this is him here. You see him pretty good.
Yeah. Now, if I was reading that correctly, I think that it's got 15-inch G2s,
Yep. 15 inch.
11-inch G3s, and
Yep.
29-inch beams. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Man, that's incredible.
Yep. This was that was the kicker there, the little
Oh yeah.
sticker at his, brow tine that was kind of like up for debate all weekend. But
Man, those brow tines are just gnarly. Look at that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's got all these little like knots and balls and
Good
uh,
mass too.
good mass on him. Yeah, all the way through.
Wow.
A lot of width and height. Yeah, I mean, he's what's crazy about this deer too, which I've also kind of, learned that like, it's nothing for a deer to move, 4 or 5 miles in, a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. But after I shot the deer, a local farmer, he reached out to me, and he had the matching set of sheds
Oh
that he
wow.
found, yeah, cut in a field like back in like, before the season. It was like early summer, like April or May. He was cutting a field, and he sent me like the pictures of them and where he found them, and I measured from there to where I shot them, and it was like almost 3 miles away.
That's incredible.
Yeah, which, makes sense as to why, like, you know, all summer long, those
Yeah.
3 years, never had pictures of him because he was just feeding in, like, I don't know what they had planted where the farmer found them. Probably, around here it's usually beans or corn.
Yeah.
And I think the few pictures I had of him up until last season, he's probably just chasing does or looking for acorns or. So I just got lucky that I found the buck, and just I hunted them pretty much every day. So I think that helps a lot too with just having success with like finding a big deer and then making it work out. Luckily for me, like in the wintertime, just with work, we slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And my brother, I'll send him stuff if like when I had this deer, I hunted him for like 2 weeks straight. And I do like a couple, we do, like I said, we own a roofing company. So I do a couple, estimates a day, and then I'd haul tail to the woods. And just by being able to like hunt every day and put the cameras out and just try and hunt smart, it'll definitely pays off. It helps out a lot.
Yeah, well, you were definitely persistent. I mean, you've been after this guy for a couple of years, two, three
Yeah,
years, and sounds like you had quite a bit of I'll call it seat time out there in your stands
yeah.
going after this guy. So it certainly paid off, and I'm happy for you that it did. Um, the big question is after a success like that, where do you go from here? You have
It's
anything on camera this year that's even close?
I don't yet,
Yeah,
unfortunately. My cameras, like most of the places I hunt, they're all like just wooded properties. I've got like one farm I hunt. They've got, standing corn in it right now. And, but most of the spots I hunt, I don't ever get a lot of big deer in the summer because, like oak trees in June and July, they're not dropping yet.
yeah.
So usually around end of September into October, I just start getting like random bucks that I hadn't had pictures of at all,
Yeah.
and they're coming in looking for acorns, and towards the end of October they start bumping does, so you're gonna have some new deer moving in, but yeah, as far as like this year, I've got all my cameras have been out since April, May. I just like to put them out early when it's still fairly cool, and I have them over. I had some of them over like mineral sites. I've moved most of them now to like just funnels and areas where I think deer are gonna be, looking for acorns. They're all in blocks of oaks and
Yeah.
pinch points and stuff like that. But I don't have anything I would shoot yet,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that. Um, one of the things I wanted to ask you is I know that um, you know, I, I don't know if famous is the right word, but you've certainly gotten quite a bit of attention, I'm sure, after the state record was announced. I've
Yeah.
I've heard you on, I think it was the Buckmasters podcast I heard you on. Have you
Yep.
done any other podcasts?
Just Buckmaster. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. Yeah. Um, that was pretty, I'd never done a podcast until then. So when you reached out, I thought that was pretty cool. And it's always cool to, share the hunt and just share, how I hunt. I'm sure everyone hunts their own way, but,
Sure, yeah.
it's always cool just to be able to share what's worked for me and, just even get tips and advice from you and how you do things. So yeah, it was. I was at a concert like 2 weeks ago in Richmond. It's thousands of people there, and I had like 6 or 7 people come up like, "Are you Dustin Plummer?" I was
Yeah.
like, "It's
Yeah.
crazy social media." just pictures get shared around, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the whole state of Virginia saw that one.
Absolutely. How did it make you feel? I saw that Tyler Jordan from Realtree commented on it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, he shared it. He shared it on his page, and I think he said like this is one of my all time favorite whitetails.
Yeah,
So I posted on there like a video of him, and he replied back to it. That was pretty
nice,
cool.
nice,
I was hoping
nice.
maybe I could catch an invite down there and hunt with those guys, but that probably won't happen.
I'm telling you, if you ever get the invite, you go. Absolutely
Yeah.
go. I was blessed. I actually had Tyler on the podcast earlier this year.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, yeah, super nice guy. I just can't say enough good things about the Realtree crew, man. They are unbelievably real, down
Yeah,
to earth people.
it's like with Buckmasters. I grew up, watching the old cassettes of Jackie Bushman and Bill Jordan, Michael Waddell, all those guys. Those are kind of like the guys I grew up,
Sure, yeah,
to be like, and just learning from those guys. So seeing Tyler, share it, that was kind of like, just one of them things like you never really like would expect to happen.
yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. Absolutely.
But yeah, nah, that was yeah, just like I said, I don't think I'll ever be able to. The goal was always, I'll shoot a nice buck and then like I try and outdo myself, the following year and I hunt hard. Just I'm always trying to find a big buck to hunt, but it'll be hard to top, this one here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try though.
Yeah. Well, I know the people watching this, you know, can't see, but that room that you're in is full of trophies and full of victory
Yeah,
stories. So it sounds like you about got the hang of this thing.
I'll show you. I actually got back in 2016. I got the state record turkey,
No
and
kidding.
yeah, yeah, different property, but same county. Right down the road, and that was through NWTF. So their system is a little different than Virginia score, but NWTF does. It was a 7 bearded turkey, so they
Wow.
measure each beard, the body weight, total spur, and then it adds it up into like a final score. So that one was he's up here. You can see all the beards he's
Oh
got.
wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Man.
Do a little bit of fishing. That was a
Yeah.
13-2 I caught. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw I could see it.
But yeah, here's a few up here. A
Yeah, I
lot of
see you're
these.
doing all right. A
Yeah.
few more.
Yeah. Got some
Now, are
beards up
you
there.
do you strictly just hunt there in Goochland, or you do any out of state hunting? Going to Montana, Iowa, any of that kind of stuff?
Never hunted out of state. I've got a college roommate. He's living out there, out in Montana, and I got buddies. I get so hung up, like I said, during deer season, I get so hung up deer hunting. But my buddies go out every year in December and they duck hunt for like the week.
Yeah.
And I think I might try and make that trip, this year. But as far as like any deer hunting, yeah, I'm mainly hunting around here, and then there's another Chesterfield County. I've got a spot out there. I mean, I think though, like probably the last 6 deer I've mounted, it's been on like 4 different properties. So, usually what I do, just put all my cameras up and wherever I'm getting like the most consistent action or the biggest deer, I'll just hunt hard there. And sometimes I'll spend, uh, 3 or 4 weeks just hunting, one spot after one deer. And, you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes, it doesn't. But I just tell myself too, like, if I see deer that I'm not going to shoot, I've got a lot of buddies like they'll pass a deer up, all of bow season, and then the last week they shoot them. Like, oh, I had a slow year, and nothing wrong with that. But like,
Right.
if you want to kill like great deer, you just gotta let the smaller deer go. And there's been times where I've let bucks go that were like really nice, and then the neighbor shoots them, and
Yeah,
good for them. That's a part of hunting. Nothing
it
wrong with
is.
that. It's just I would rather not shoot a buck. Just how I hunt. Everyone can hunt their own way, but for how I do it, if I'm gonna shoot a buck, I'm not gonna just cut the rack off and toss them in the shed. I'd rather a neighbor that hasn't killed a deer that big, maybe they'll shoot him, or maybe he'll make it and he'll be a giant the following year. Give me something to look forward to, to hunting. But so yeah, I just stack the woods up with cameras and hunt hard. Usually, last 2 weeks of October into December is like kind of the time to be in the woods.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you know,
that time is approaching pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah, and even like I got buddies like they'll hunt really hard like all of bow season, and then they're worn out, they're tired, and then they're missing the best time of the year to be in the woods.
Yeah, I can see
I'm
how that could happen. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see
I'm
it.
truly like I'm not a huge bow hunter. It's hot, and mosquitoes, the big deer, aren't really moving around where I'm hunting.
Yeah.
It's wooded areas. It's not, I've seen people kill big deer like the first opening day or first week that are hunting, big, bean fields and cut corn fields where they're still kind of in like that summer pattern where they're hitting the fields every evening. But like where I'm hunting, usually I'll start getting like the big deer, like, end of October, early November, they start, moving more. And that's kind of like, I try and with, having a wife and two kids, it's not easy, to just hunt every day like I used
Yeah.
to. So
Yeah.
I really try and like just hunt the right time of year, just focus on like hunting super hard for like, 4 or 5 weeks. And then a lot of times, like once December comes, I'll just kind of hang around the house and, I'm not out there hunting every weekend or every day like I
Yeah.
do during the rut.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. And I think to your other point, that kind of early season hunting versus kind of the rut stuff. I think a lot of that depends on, your location and what those cameras are showing.
Yeah.
If that big buck had been on your place during that summertime and early season, I think you would have dedicated more early
Yeah.
season time towards him.
Yes.
You know, that's just the nature of it. So, if the 3 miles away where he was living, if he was on other people's cameras, they were probably hunting him pretty hard early season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I know like this is where I live, I've been here forever. I know like everyone in the county and, we all of us, that hunt, we, text back and forth during the season and send each other pictures and stuff. But I haven't had anybody reach out or send me any like other pictures of the deer, which it would be cool to see them like, the past 3 years, that first and second year, I just had one picture of him. It would have just
Yeah.
been cool to see like where he was, at different times of year. And, I really wish I would have had him aged just to see like how old he was too. But just, my guess, like I said, in 2022, I had that pretty good shot of him like coming by the camera. He was probably a 3.5 or 4.5 then.
Yeah.
So I would say he was, 6.5 to 7.5
Yeah.
last season.
Yeah.
Um, and them big deer, I think they move a lot more than we realize.
Well,
Like,
they get big for a reason.
yeah,
They,
yeah. I
they
mean,
have
there's
a
no telling,
they
you
have a
know.
different set of survival instinct skills and
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
yeah. I mean, yeah, the property I shot them on, it wasn't but like, 20 acres or so. And, I mean, I've got like right across the creek, another like 100 acres, and then like a mile through the woods, I've got like 50-acre piece, and then another little block that like connects to that. But didn't have them on any other cameras. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
I had a phone call. Yeah, it was. I just had them on like that one little 20-acre piece, and all those cameras around there didn't have them on any of those. So it just shows you too, like
Yeah.
even though they do a lot of traveling, sometimes they might find like one small area and stay close to that if they feel safe, you know.
Yeah,
So
it's it's you don't, no matter how many cameras you have out there, you just can't cover it all.
nah,
You just
that's
can't
another
do it.
thing. Like I might get, too carried away with my cameras where, I don't have a big deer on this property on camera. That doesn't mean there's not two or three of them walking, 20 yards from the camera that you would never know about. So
Exactly right.
the best thing you can do is just, hunt hard and stay patient, and going out once a week, the odds of like, you know, connecting with that big deer you're after, they're probably a little, they might go down a little bit, but yeah, I mean, just hunting hard and putting the time in is the best thing you can do, regardless of whether you have a camera out or not. Just time in the tree, usually you'll get, your luck will, your hard work and luck will kind of just come your way.
Right on. Well, it certainly worked out for you last year. Man, what a moose. He's just a moose of a buck, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely a deer that will, a hunt that I'll, never forget, and a lot of history with him. Not seeing him in the tree much, but just the pictures, and
Oh yeah.
chasing them for 3 years was,
Mhm.
it's almost like bittersweet. It's come to an end. Now I got
Yeah,
to find a new one to
that's
hunt.
right. That's right. And if they think you spend a lot of time in the stand hunting him, they should really stop and think about how much time you probably spent like actually thinking about him.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just
It
hundreds of
was like I
hours.
said, yeah, 3 years, and it was always like every year was like disappointing because summer comes and I'm like, all right, that eight's around, and then all summer into fall, just he wouldn't show up, and then randomly the camera would go off and it would be him, and then I'm out to the tree hunting for
Right.
the next 6 weeks, never see him, never get a picture. Then literally a year later, after the season, there he is. He shows back up. So he was a hard one to figure out. And like I said, I think I got lucky. He moved in, and felt comfortable where I was hunting, and just thankfully it all worked out.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, it's cool. Well, based on what I've seen there in your trophy room, there's no, this was certainly not a oh shoot, what's the phrase I'm looking for? You're not a one-hit wonder, right?
Yeah.
So you may not have that monster on film this year, but I certainly think you have the skill set and hunting ability to score another mountable deer, and certainly we'll be rooting for you to do just that again this year. So
Yeah, yeah, that's always the goal,
yeah,
just find one that I can put on the wall, and I'm just kind of like my like stage of hunting. I used to try and fill the tags. Same with like turkey hunting. I
yeah,
gotta kill three, and I've just learned to more of like just appreciate like being out there, and just the hunt is like the fun part, not even like the killing. It's just the being out there and anticipating that giant coming by you, or
heck yeah.
that's kind of like what I more like chase, now. And yeah, that's the plan this year. Find another big one and spend a lot of time hunting
Yeah.
them.
Right on. Right on. Well, Dustin, I think we're probably at a great spot to wrap up. Man, what a phenomenal story. What a phenomenal deer. I've said it once, I will say it again. Virginia is a sleeper state on the national scene, man. Virginia's got some big bucks. You got
Yep.
a room full of them. I see them all over the state, and man, I appreciate you agreeing to jump on with me today and share your story and share pictures of the buck and stuff, man. It's incredible.
Yep. Yep. I appreciate you having me on here, and yeah, I'll be in touch. Good luck this season.
Heck yeah. I'll be watching your Facebook page to see when you land another one.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me, and yeah, you have a good one, man.
All right, man. You too.